Hello everyone and welcome back to my Sinav talk. A few days ago I ran across a YouTube video talking about North Korea. And we all know how North Korea is like an awful place, like how the regime oppresses the citizens and isolating them from the outside world, prohibiting so many everyday activities such as the internet or using social media, discussing politics or even thinking. So let me talk about what is going on in North Korea and how the citizens figure out to escape and realize how bad and inadequate the regime itself is and what you can do to help. First off, why is North Korea like this? The isolation thing was like culture alongside Far East countries many centuries ago like China, Japan, etc. But many years later, they realized how bad this is and discontinued to do, but North Korea didn't. This is about the power and the money that the leader has. The regime still isolates the people and forbids everything that you can think of. First off, basically North Korean people cannot think. The regime persecutes, imprisons, and publicly executes who criticize or questions the government in any way, shape or form. Also, they do this to the families of the victims and to the journalists who tries to contact with the North Korean citizens. Second, North Koreans do not have access to the World Wide Web. Instead, the government provides a service called Kwomyang to only higher class. They don't know what is going on around the world and they have no idea of the outside world. Even if someone managed to gather some information somehow, they would probably get killed by the government. There are only 2 television channels around the whole country, and both of them are constantly praising the eternal leader and the Kim Jong-un. North Koreans are taught not to think or criticize the government, worship the leader basically as a god, and be proud of their cold, concrete, brutal country since they have no idea of what the outside world looks like or works. The lower class lives in absolute poverty and hunger, but still the regime managed to brainwash them. A famous defector and human rights activist, Yeonmi Park, said in one of her speeches, "It only took 3 generations to make North Korea into George Orwell's 1984. If you read that book, you will know what that means." And you may ask, why don't they just move? Well, because can't. Citizens cannot even travel in their country without the special permit that only the higher class can get. They don't even know that they are being oppressed. Well, if you don't know you got kidnapped, how do you fight for your own freedom? Suki Kim, a Korean-American journalist who went undercover in North Korea as a teacher, said, "If all they have ever known was lies, how could we expect them to be otherwise about the students?" Fortunately, some citizens managed to escape from their best of the best perfect country. These people are called defectors. The defectors report many horrible things that have happened in North Korea. They said they were always seeing dead bodies laying on the sidewalks in the famine, and they said they were always seeing dead bodies floating on the Chinese and North Korean border river. Some of the defectors have such inspiring stories that I recommend for you to watch and learn about. It is literally impossible to cross the border between North and South Korea because there are heavily armed soldiers in both sides and you would get shot immediately if you try to cross. Instead, the defectors have to escape to China, which is very risky because the North Korean regime has an agreement with Chinese government stating that the Chinese government must return the defectors to North Korea. The returned defectors and their families get imprisoned and tortured later. If they manage not to get arrested, then they have to travel across several countries illegally. Then they should fly to North Korea. When they get there, there's an institution called Hanawon. Hanawon helps the defectors to learn about life and essential things. they cannot go outside until their education is done. When they finally get to the outside world, the government provides them a house and a job for 5 years. Many defectors often go back to North Korea to get their families to South Korea, because if they don't, often the North Korea regime arrests the defectors' family and tortures them. The North Korean regime is inhumane and horrendous. The world cannot do anything because they are afraid of the North Korea's nuclear powers. But as the famous author Victor Hugo said, when dictatorship is a fact, revolution is a duty. Then what can we do? Sometimes people say that they can't help their enemy, but please don't forget that the North Korean people are not our enemy. If there's an enemy, that should be the North Korean regime and the dictator. We should read and learn about the things that are happening right now in North Korea. The defectors say that escaping is very expensive and hard to afford. To help them, you can donate to charities that fund defectors to escape. And most importantly, share. Please inform the people around you about North Koreans. Share the stories, read the stories. Everyone should know what is happening right now. It is so beautiful when we fight for animal rights because they cannot speak for themselves. But right now, North Koreans cannot speak for themselves. Thank you.